This is Team A's professional sports marketing and management presentation. And as we start off, we ask the question, why is marketing important in all sports? And there's a need for marketing in sports, and really because of four main ways. And these ways are because this shows why marketing is so critical and prevalent in all the major professional sports. And the sports that we concentrate on are the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, and the NHL. And the first point is because the funds for the maintenance of sports teams are always critical, and the marketing and advertisement that these teams do help increase this. It also keeps the sports franchises in people's minds, and because they always want to be relevant with their consumers. And it individualizes the team's logo, the brand, and the image to the consumer's mind, and hopefully gets the retention rate up and keeps them coming. Also, sports marketing helps people become aware of all the activities and functions that occur with a sports team, keeps them in the loop, keeps them current and fresh. And this could include sporting events, marketing events, or just events in the community. A lot of these franchises always want to act like or show that they're involved in their community. And lastly, marketing in sports is the primary way to get sponsorships for teams, both short-term and long-term. Some of the examples of effective sports marketing each of the big four professional sports are highlighted on this slide. And these have kind of paved the way for success in each of the leagues. The first one is with the NBA, and they did a good job of effective sports marketing with their creation of their official NBA logo. And this features the former star player Jerry West dribbling the ball. This logo is instantly recognizable all over the globe and has kind of become synonymous with the league. And basically, this can be credited to instant brand marketing and effective brand marketing at that. With the MLB, they introduced interleague play before the 1997 season, and this drew some questionable reception, but it turned out to be a major success through a launch of a strong and effective marketing scheme, and kind of showed some innovation and kind of let the fans know that they were changing and getting with the times and being more innovative. And this in turn increased attendance and has been a major hit for all the fans getting to play new teams. It was very consumer friendly. The NHL in 2008 introduced a strong and effective marketing concept called the Winter Classic, and they did this with promotion because people kind of didn't know what to expect, but this was featured a hockey game at a strategic outdoor venue. The first was in the Buffalo Bills outdoor field. And at first, the promotion kind of generated lots of buzz leading up to it. They did months of promotion and advertisement. And then the inaugural game drew big TV ratings and money, which made the event a success. And it actually outdrew the Stanley Cup Finals that year. And now it's become a routine hit where cities are bidding on it for the revenue they get. And lastly, the NFL installed the marquee sporting event of the year when they created the Super Bowl in 1967. And everyone knows the Super Bowl. This is, the NFL markets this game basically a year out in advance, sometimes even multiple years out in advance, and it's their big event. And slowly but surely, this promotion has made it become the can't miss event of the year. And as everyone knows, it brings in an astronomical amount of money and usually delivers over 100 million viewers a year. And with sports management, this slide kind of pinpoints the four objectives of why sports management is so important to a franchise. And as effective as sports marketing is for franchise, strategic sports management is just as critical for one as well. And the four main objectives the franchise or company is trying to achieve is, the first is organizational objectives, which are goals that the professional organization sets as long-term goals to help the franchise or company define their purpose and basically know their role in their industry. The second is that strategic sports management allows a franchise or company to enjoy a growth in both revenues and profits, which is always very important. And it's basically the main goal of any company trying to survive and prosper. And some of these effective management goals are not always financial motives for these companies. And and if they're not, then it would entail basically being strategic motives, which those could be like increasing the corporate image and brand locally and nationally for all consumers, as well as increasing customer satisfaction, which can lead to ultimate customer retention. And on this slide, we pinpoint four really effective sports management examples in all the four leagues. The first one is with the NBA. And with all four of these, most of these have either been obviously financially motivated or to increase customer satisfaction or just in general to clean up the league's image. In the NBA, Commissioner David Stern instituted a strong dress code that was met with a lot of criticism league-wide by the players, union, and media. And this dress code was pretty harsh, but it has ultimately been a big success because it promoted a better image throughout the country in different media markets. It makes the players a lot more presentable to the fans, to the media, and whoever is associated with the games on each night. The MLB strive to become more fan-friendly, and they're always doing this. That's kind of part of their mantra. So they allowed fans to basically create the entire All-Star Game rosters through their voting, and this continues to grow and be more popular league-wide. And the All-Star Weekend basically has been a very big success for the league, both financially and increasingly their relationship with the fans. And they continue to do this, and that relationship has really prospered. The NHL had to deal with some bad PR disasters when a couple fans were critically injured after being hit by speeding hockey pucks, and including I believe an 8-year-old daughter in Columbus passed away from getting hit in the head with one. So they basically tried to become increase customer safety, and by doing this, they created nets around the ice rink right after this incident happened, and a couple other incidents. One's in St. Louis and one in Buffalo. And they basically wanted fans to feel safe and come to the game so they can enjoy it in peace. And so far, safety has gone up quite a bit and been a lot better for the fans. Lastly, the NFL wanted to clean up the bad image of their players getting to major off the field. This is kind of becoming a routinely bad issue every offseason, and this has been definitely highlighted in the last 5 years. And this has resulted in Commissioner Roger Goodell installing some of the most harsh off-the-field conduct policies and suspensions to scare the players to basically clean up their act off the football field. And since this has happened, most notably the one is with Pac-Man Jones, but there's been others as well. But since this off-the-field sanctions have been more severe, it's basically mitigated a lot of the off-the-field conduct, and basically these policies and suspensions have been successes for the league. And then in this slide, we want to talk about the growth in the professional sports industry and why it continues to prosper and should in the near future. And basically the goal of this slide is to introduce that professional sports are a very healthy industry, that the advertising and sponsorship was over $2 billion, showing that many companies are valuing professional sports as a good platform to showcase their products, whatever they want to get across to the consumers watching the product. Also, the attendance in all four major sports are growing. NFL experiencing their highest attendance ever at 17 million, and this comes even after the lockout, which they were nervous would make fans kind of go away from the product, but that wasn't the case at all. The NBA, also having a lockout to deal with as well, has seen a 3% increase overall, when people had basically been projecting a harsh downward slope after they resumed their legal battles. The MLB continues to reach 20 million fans quicker than ever before, which is basically their main benchmark for gauging attendance every year. And lastly, the NHL has increased attendance for the 7th consecutive year and continues to improve the league's overall image after the really strong year-long lockout of 2004-2005. Also, professional sports are now the 10th largest of any U.S. industry groups, and that's evidenced by the U.S. output for sports goods and services ranging from 350 to 400 million annually. As we shift gears, we kind of want to talk about the finance of professional sports and that overall situation. And the question is kind of, are professional sports recession-proof? Since 2008, the country has fallen into recession, as everyone knows, and while most sports economists historically believe that the sports industry has been recession-proof, this time around it's not the case. Most industry insiders point to increased ticket prices and lack of revenue generated from sponsorships and luxury suites. As it seems the sports industry is no longer recession-proof, it will now have to account for the repercussions that economic downturns such as the current one will bring. And so this basically, I want to talk about how teams make and spend money. With revenues and expenses, when discussing finance, the two major categories are revenue and expenses. Revenues are entities that bring in income, while expenses are entities that require a cost. In most non-sporting events, the price of a ticket is basically the primary generator of revenue. Yet sporting events typically have several revenue streams outside of the annual ticket price, such as parking or concessions or PSLs, which are personal seat licenses, which can be very costly for a fan, merchandise, or apparel, tickets, and also luxury suite rentals. Professional sports don't just basically build revenues, but they also generate quite a bit of expenses as well. Facilities and salaries make up the bulk of expenses in professional sports, and we obviously know that sports franchises are big business, but the question is just how big. And then some of these, and on this slide, we want to highlight basically who are some of the world's 50 most valuable sports franchises, and this is by Forbes ranking. Every year, Forbes puts together a list of the top 50 most valuable sports franchises in the world. That's kind of the benchmark. And leading the list was the NFL. And all 32 NFL franchises made the cut, led by the Dallas Cowboys, which are worth $1.81 billion. And the top franchise, however, in the world was Manchester United, soccer team out of the English Premier League, which was worth $1.86 billion. The Cowboys were second overall on the list, and in the NFL, the Washington Redskins were second with $1.6 billion. Seeing how the NFL dominates this list takes us into basically a very big financial topic for all leagues, which is revenue sharing. Revenue sharing, the NFL, NBA, NHL, and MLB all kind of have some form of their own revenue sharing. And revenue sharing just as a whole is when the league agrees to split an equal portion of a specific revenue stream amongst every team in the league. This is done so the teams in the larger markets don't build huge competitive advantages over the smaller market teams. They're basically trying to get parity in the leagues. Most leagues divide a portion of the ticket sales of media contracts and revenue sharing. And however, depending on the collective bargaining agreement, also known as the CBA, which is agreed upon by the Players Association in each league, the revenue sharing model will look different in each league. Revenue sharing is a major issue in CBAs for most of the leagues. Just recently, as we talked about earlier with the lockout, the revenue sharing was at the forefront of these labor disputes in both the NFL and NBA. League structure, the four major professional sports leagues have teams that utilize the separate entity structure. And separate entity structure means that through the teams share many of the same revenue sources and expenses, but the team is run as its own business or entity. However, some of the new professional sports leagues are trying to decide to try the single entity structure, and this structure allows for teams in the league to collaborate better and be more efficiently. And also the decisions made in this type of structure are centered more on making the league better, more so than improving a specific team. Through the years, though, the debate between league structure has been a hot topic. The MLS, which is Major League Soccer, found value and success in the single entity structure, which when it started in 1993. And being able to control all aspects of the league, not just player compensation, helped save the league's money. In addition to also saving money, to help them recruit sponsors. But this was not the case when the NBA and had the NBA Development League and the Women's NBA. And these leagues started off as single entity structures, but made a change when the team owners basically demanded more control. On this slide, we talk about kind of the legal issues in professional sports. And obviously, as talking in the case of lockouts, the big issue is collective bargaining. And collective bargaining is when a process where organized groups of workers and employees can negotiate terms of employment without litigation. The results of these meetings are collective bargaining agreements, CBAs, as we referred to earlier. Another big sticking point in professional sports are contract negotiations, and this includes holdouts. And this is basically, we see this all the time when a player decides that he will not return to his team unless his contract's renegotiated. And the other sticking point is arbitration, and this is definitely prevalent in the Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball because it's a form of mediation to settle contract disputes. You always hear of players avoiding arbitration.
Next, we will go to current events. One of the big things that are going on in current events right now is players' health. One thing that we're looking at is HGH, human growth hormones. They've been considered as performance-enhancing drugs that will increase vitality and energy of an athlete. It's also used as an aid to recover from injuries. Even though it's been used since the 70s to help increase athletic performance, Congress and the World Anti-Doping Agency has put in increased pressure on professional athletic leagues to administer blood tests to detect for HGH. In November of 2011, the Major League Baseball became the first professional sports league to test for HGH. Players agreed to submit to random HGH testing during spring training and later in the off-season. But one note is that in-season testing will not be allowed for the reasons stated earlier. The NFL tabled the discussion of blood testing during the August NFL Player Association labor negotiations. The NFLPA is concerned that the tests have not been peer-reviewed by scientists outside of the World Anti-Doping Agency. During the 2012 spring break week, NFL Commissioner Robert Goodell announced that he's optimistic that an agreement will be reached with the NFL Players Association to begin testing players for HGH this offseason. The NBA's new collective bargaining agreement opens the door for blood testing for human growth hormones, provided that the league and the players' union can agree on the reliability of the test. Another player health issue is concussions. It's become very prevalent in professional sports as well as high school and college sports. Players frequently sustain concussions. They play with them and then happen to suffer long-term damages. And in rare cases, some players ultimately die from the damage. In June of 2012, the NFL acknowledged that concussions can lead to dementia, memory loss, CTE, and related symptoms by publishing a warning to every player and team. As a result, in 2011, 75 former professional football players sued the NFL, saying that the league knew as early as 1920 of the harmful effects of concussions on players' brains, but concealed the information from players, coaches, trainers, and others until June of 2012. The NFL is now required to perform sideline tests after players receive blows to the head. The National Hockey League buried 3 players last spring who died due to concussion-related injuries. Many concussions in the NHL are a result of legal and illegal hits from the players. Talks of no hits to the head rule has emerged, but concussions are a part of contact sports and they will be impossible to completely dispel. Next, we'll talk about the 2011 lockouts. That's something that was really big last year. The NFL lockout was imposed by the owners and lasted a little over 18 weeks. The players and the owners could not come to a consensus to a new collective bargaining agreement. The major issues disputed were the salary cap, player safety and health benefits, revenue sharing and television contracts, transparency of financial information, rookie salaries, season length, and the free agency guidelines. During this time, players were restricted from seeing team doctors, entering or working out in team facilities, or communicating with the coaches. The NFLPA executive director, Demarius Smith, played a significant role in the union's completion of a 10-year collective bargaining agreement. In the NBA, the NBA had its 4th lockout in history starting on July 1st of 2012, upon the expiration of the 2005 collective bargaining agreement. The 161-day lockout delayed the start of the 2011-2012 basketball season and reduced it by 16 days. The major issues dividing the owners and the players, who were represented by the National Basketball Players Association, or the NBPA, were the division of revenue and the structure of the salary cap and luxury tax. Like the NFL, the NBA players were not allowed to access team facilities or staff, trade or sign player contracts. Many players signed contracts to play in other countries with the options to return to the NBA after the lockout ended. With negotiations being finalized on December 8th, the season had a delayed start and started the new season on December 25th of 2011. Some of the upcoming events that are pretty big in sports we'll talk about the first one, which would be the World Congress of Sports. The IMG World Congress of Sports is the preeminent gathering of leaders in the sports business. The Congress is a 2-day event featuring keynotes from and interviews with some of the most powerful leaders in sports. The keynotes and interviews are completed by feature presentations and roundtables on the most pressing issues in sports business. Another fun award that comes around once a year is the ESPY Awards, which is the Excellence in Sports Performance Yearly Award. It's an accolade presented by ESPN to recognize individuals and team athletic achievements and other sports-related performances during the calendar year. The ESPYs are usually hosted by a current celebrity and are styled similarly to award shows such as the Emmys, Grammys, and Academy Awards. Unlike the mentioned award shows, the ESPY winners are chosen through fan voting. Since 2004, sports writers, broadcasters, sports executives and sports persons or collective experts, they were also allowed to vote. Award winners have been selected, thereafter, exclusively through online fan balloting conducted from the candidates selected from the ESP and the ESPY select nominating committee. Lastly, we'll talk about the Olympics, which is coming this summer. This year's Summer Olympics will be held in London, England. And before the 1988 Games, professional athletes were not allowed to participate. Now there are many non-American athletes who play in the U.S. but will represent their country of origin in their particular sports. Next, we'll talk about professional sports and where the industry will be going in the next 5 years. So, football, as I mentioned before, concussions is a big thing. A lot of concussions were reported in the 2010-2011 season. According to the NFL data obtained by the Associated Press, 154 conclusions that happened in practice or games were reported from the start of the preseason through the 8th week of the 2010 regular season, a 21% increase from the prior season. A big change in the NFL is coming regarding the Pro Bowl. Many players criticize other players of not trying during the game, so the commissioner has decided to either replace the game with something else or eliminate it altogether. Another topic that we'll talk about is the more extensive use of instant replays. Replay in the NBA is used for officials to confirm flagrant fouls, warranted ejection, or that players left the bench during an altercation. Referees can now go to the monitor to see if a shot or foul came beyond the three-point arc, whether they beat the shot clock or if the clock was malfunctioned. The system is expanded last season to out-of-bounds possessions in the final 2 minutes of regulation or overtime. We think that the instant replay will continue to be expanded every year. Also, more superstars are pairing up on the same team. And the NBA is now opposed to what is back in the Michael Jordan, Larry Bird days. Now all-star caliber players are teaming up on the same teams in search of championships. It has been an ongoing discussion since last year's The Decision, in which LeBron James made his decision on ESPN where he would be playing for the upcoming season. With notable all-star free agents after this regular season, I'm sure we'll see more of this happening in years to come. And here's two current team leaders with superstars that are chasing championships, and I'm sure that we'll see more of these matchups or these team ups every year. Let's see. So, in addition to instant replay, the MLB is leaning toward expanding the replay for future seasons to include trap balls and fair or foul rulings down the line. The MLB is discussing to cut at least 10 seconds from each half inning, allowing an extra 5 minutes to go over replays during the games. The instant replay system will more than likely expand each year. The MLB is also discussing whether or not they should add 2 more wildcard teams to the postseason, expanding the postseason teams from 8 to 10 out of the 30 teams. Let's see. And professional sports as a whole in 5 years. The sports industry is only expanding. There's no ceiling for how big it can get. In 5 years, nationwide professional sports can easily turn into a worldwide sector. All sports are starting to be more serious regarding drug and blood screenings to abolish illegal substance used by the players. I believe in the future that there will be more surprise drug screenings. The current TCU scandal is a prime example of what is to come in sports. There is starting to be more ways. There's starting to be way more social media involvement in sports. and that will only increase. For example, this year's NBA dunk contest will have no judges. The fans will vote for the winner via internet, text, and Twitter. And that is the conclusion of our program.